And welcome to the Go Earn It podcast. I'm Shane Sparks. This is episode 4. Always excited to talk to some of these great guys in the sport. Guest today is a 3-time ACC champion, 4-time All-American. He was 4th at the national tournaments last year in Tulsa. Pleasure to be joined by Trent Hidlay of the Wolfpack of North Carolina State. Hoagie, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm super excited to be on the podcast. I was listening to some of the episodes on my car drive up to Lewistown today, so I'm excited.
This is fantastic. My first question, let's get the important stuff out of the way. How did you get the nickname Hoagie?
Yeah, I it's been a few years now, but when I was a senior in high school, I wrestled at Who's Number One, and one of my good buddies that was wrestling at Lehigh. The event was at Lehigh. Jarrett Lane. We had hoagies for lunch. And hoagies are kind of a pretty popular food in uh, northeastern America, and in my hometown. A lot of people call them subs. Probably more familiar with that, but we always gone by hoagies. And he said, if you win, I'll throw this out to you and you take a bite. And I got a pin in overtime, and I kind of forgot about it because I was celebrating like crazy. And next thing I know, I see a hoagie flying in my head, and I caught it, took a bite. So ever since then, I've kind of been branded as the hoagie boy. So that's been cool.
That is a great event. Who's Number One? Who did you wrestle at Who's Number One?
I wrestled Julian Ramirez. He's at Cornell now, a little
Yep.
lighter, but we had a barn burner. Went to overtime, I think. So yeah, that was. It seems like a long time ago, but in reality, it's. I guess that was 2018.
Tell me about Lewistown, Pennsylvania, where you're from.
Yeah, Lewistown is a pretty small rural town in Pennsylvania, about 30 minutes south of State College, where Penn State is. So right in the heart of Pennsylvania, grew up a lot around a pretty rich tradition of wrestling in the county, and it's a special place. Both my parents grew up there, and all my family's from there. A lot of hardworking people, so it's a really special place for me.
When were you introduced to wrestling?
I started when I was 5 years old. Hayden started 2 years before me. He's 2 years older than me. We didn't have anybody in our family that wrestled. My dad never wrestled. He played football for a few years at Franklin and Marshall in college, and was really good at golf, basketball, and baseball, pretty much everything but wrestling. My oldest brother, Heath, was into every sport but wrestling, and Hayden had a few guys in his school that were a little older that I think he was playing on the playground with them one day, and they said that he should come out. He came out for wrestling, and he was pretty much a natural right away. And then when I turned 5, I started. I was not as good right away, but I was kind of a little bit of a hot-headed kid, I think. So it was a good avenue for me to kind of figure out how to get beat and learn how to deal with some adversity.
Yeah. Is it you and two brothers?
So I have my oldest brother Heath, who played Division III football at Ursinus College. I have Hayden, who most people on here are familiar with, and then I actually have a younger sister who's the toughest out of all of us. She plays field hockey at Susquehanna University, so she's a junior this year. Yeah, so I got 3 other siblings, 2 older brothers and a younger sister.
When you look growing up in this sport, because one thing that I've always appreciated with you, Trent, is it always seems like you're having a good time, just kind of a loose guy, smile on your face. And I'm always intrigued by, the approach and how you were raised in the sport growing up. When you reflect on coming up in the sport, how did your parents, handle you in your wrestling, and how did you develop a love for the sport?
Oh, they were really supportive. I'm really grateful to have parents that pushed me and my siblings pretty hard, but were also always there for us. Would take us anywhere we needed to go. Um, expected a lot out of us, but were never over the top. Never in a way that made me not enjoy what I was doing or enjoy the competition. I think they did it right by holding us to a pretty high standard, and also growing up with 2 older brothers who, beat the snot out of you in every competition, every backyard game. It creates a little bit of fire in you. So I think I've always had that competitiveness in me, and I try to keep that, in my wrestling as much as possible. I think that's what's helped me be pretty successful in this sport is laying it on the line and fighting for myself in every position. Uh, and as I've gotten older, the more I've appreciated that. And just, really reflecting on how I was raised, the people around me. I'm really grateful for the family support that I've had, and just the lessons that were instilled into me at a young age of hard work, a strong work ethic, taking care of those around you, and always expecting the most out of yourself are things I'll take with me forever.
In high school, three-time finalist. You won it as a junior and a senior. Sophomore year, you took second place. Who did you wrestle? What was that match like?
I actually lost to Caleb Young,
Really?
who went on to have
Yeah.
a really good career at Iowa.
From
We wrestled
Punxsutawney, Pennsylvania, right?
as Punxsutawney. Most people, if you're in PA, Punxsutawney
The
Phil. That's
groundhog.
I think he was actually the first state champion for his school. So I helped be a little part of history there on the wrong end of it. But yeah, we actually wrestled. That was my sophomore year. He was a senior. We wrestled in the regional finals the week or two before that, and he beat me in overtime. So he was number one going into the state tournament. I was number two. And funny story, actually, first round matchup, I was wrestling. I think he might have been 10th or 11th ranked in the state, and I couldn't get anything going. I couldn't score any points. It's kind of one of those matches where you kind of like black out and you can't remember anything. But it went to sudden ride out, 30 seconds, and I had to get out, and I couldn't get out. And 4 seconds left on the restart, and he got his third caution, and I got a point. So I kind of survived by the skin of my teeth there. And second round, I got thrown in my back right away. Had to come back to win. Semifinals, I won in overtime, and then I lost to Caleb in the finals. It was a kind of a close match, but he controlled it. He was I think he was just more physically mature and just better at that point. But that loss really lit a fire in me and fueled me until my junior and senior year.
And what stands out when you think about those state championship runs?
I think just the sacrifices I had to make. I think to get to the level that I was at, I was priding myself in doing a lot of hard things in high school. I grew up, Hayden was 2 years older than me. My freshman and sophomore year, I was getting beat up a ton, and I was doing a lot of work. I kind of recommitted myself to the sport after my eighth grade year. I really started taking it seriously, and I think there were some growing pains, and I wasn't always the most technical. I don't think I really started developing my technical skills until I was, a senior and then going into college, but I was tough and I knew I was tough. And I used that to my advantage, and I expected myself to be a state champion. And growing up in PA, you go to the state tournament when you're a little kid, and those guys are like, they're rock stars. They almost don't even seem human, like they're superheroes. And I just knew I knew I wanted to be one of those guys. Ever since I was a little kid, I knew I wanted that feeling of winning in the Giant Center in Hershey. And my junior year, I was pretty dominant, and there was a few other decent guys, but I stuck to what I was good at, and I was able to win, and it was a surreal feeling. It was really special. But shortly after that, you have another run at it, and you want to do it again, and it meant a lot for me to be able to cap off my career the right way, and it propelled me. I think it kind of started to put me on a little bit of the national scene, and shape the goals that I had for college.
I want to talk about some of that discipline because whether it's high school, college, it could be anything, the business world, whatever it is. A lot of people say all the right things. Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that, but it's the disciplines practiced every day, that consistency. When you look back on your high school career, what were some of those disciplines where it was like, yeah, most people can't do this, I was doing this. Most people can't do that, I was able to do it. Anything stand
Yeah,
out?
yeah, absolutely. I think the one thing I still feel like I've gained so much from, and this is, let me preface this by saying I do not endorse a lot of crazy cutting weight, especially at the high school level. But when I was a freshman, Hayden was wrestling 145, and I probably weighed like mid 50s, I think. And we had a senior that was pretty good that was going to wrestle 152. So, for me, I was a freshman. I wanted to do it for the team. I cut down to 138. And I didn't know how to cut weight. I wasn't eating, I wasn't drinking, and I was just working. I was working my butt off, doing a lot of cardio, doing all the wrong things basically. But what that did for me is I think I got so tough being able to do that all year. I didn't end up placing at the state tournament. I didn't really wrestle all that well, but by the end of the year, I believed in my mind there was nothing I couldn't do. Whatever someone threw at me or whatever I had to do, I was tough enough mentally to take myself to a dark place and find a way to win, find a way to get through any hard time I've been through. So, like I said, I definitely don't endorse that for any young kids, but it flipped a switch in me mentally where I'm going to do anything I need to do to reach my goals, and if I have to go through hell to do that, I've been there before and I can do it again. So I think that's probably a huge lesson from high school. And then when I didn't have to cut weight, it made things a lot more enjoyable for me, and I started to become a much better wrestler. So I kind of had to take my lumps early, but I learned a lot from it.
Were you going to NC State for sure? I mean, was that a foregone conclusion with your brother there?
No, I kept my recruitment pretty open. I coming out of high school, I think some schools probably thought I was going right there, but my top schools at the end were NC State, Iowa, Purdue, and Lehigh. And I actually took a lot of visits. I wanted to make sure I was choosing the right school for me. I think at the end of the day, I felt most comfortable with NC State. I really enjoyed the vision of the program and kind of the discipline and vision that Coach Popolizio had for the guys. And I think I resonated a little bit with the underdog mentality of the program. I wanted to go to NC State to create history and do something for the first time. I wanted to be a part of a program that was chasing down the top dogs because that's kind of how I always viewed myself in this sport. Maybe not the best, but I'm going to fight for what I want to get, and I want to chase down the top dogs. And my brother being there was huge. I don't looking back on it now, if Hayden wasn't there, it might have been a lot harder to make that decision. But family is super important, and he made my transition a lot easier, and I was able to see what he did and kind of just follow his steps. So at NC State, it felt right. I think because he was there, and I clicked with the coaches and the mentality of the program.
What do you love most about your brother?
Um, I think I love most about Hayden is the way he's been able to use the lessons that he's learned in this sport and maybe some of the failures to help others and to help me. And most importantly, he if you asked him, how his career went, he may not say it was a huge success, but he did so many incredible things. He won so many matches. He was so good and so dominant and so strong that I've learned so much from him, and it just being a role model for me to follow it's been life changing. And he's my best friend. We've gone through a lot together, but there's nobody I look up to more than him, and the way that he was able to respond after tough losses and just his perspective on things is really sharp. And he's uh he's very smart. He's very well spoken. He's a model. He's a great role model, and I've been lucky enough to have him my whole life, and also as a brother, it's just really special.
Yeah, this is probably the impossible question. As you said, so much experience with him your entire life. Would you have a story that really stands out with him, like a conversation or a moment, something you saw him do? Maybe it's something that's, God only knows what it is, but would you have anything that really stands out where you'll always remember something with him?
Oh yeah, I have plenty. I one that I probably come back to the most is I said a little earlier, I kind of recommitted myself to the sport after like eighth grade. Um, I really didn't. I wrestled kind of my whole life, but around like sixth and seventh grade, I hated wrestling. Like I did not want to do it anymore. I was all in on baseball and football. I think I thought I was a lot better at those sports than I was. Kind of a little bit of cocky and arrogant. And I just didn't really enjoy the sport as much. I saw how good Hayden was doing, and I didn't love the grind of it. I didn't love the practices and stuff. So I guess looking back on it, I was kind of maybe a little bit of a lazy, just teenage kid. But my eighth grade year, I remember to this day, I had a tournament and I ended up winning. Um, and he had texted me that night, basically talking with our club coach, and he kind of he said some really truthful things about how good he thought I could be, and he wanted he wanted to share the experience with me. And I think knowing how much that he believed in me and him being able to say that, it flipped a switch in me. I mean, right after that, I was like, you know what, I'm all in on this. And I remember in the text he said we were going to be the best brothers to come out of PA. And I don't know, that was a really emotional click for me. And I knew I had a lot of work to do, but I believed it, and I knew I was like, we're going to train together. Let's go do this. So I think I grew up a lot in that text message series that he sent me, and like I said, I still remember it to this day. And another situation I'd say is probably, I don't know, I have so many good stories. I guess another pretty important one was after I lost in the NCAA finals, I guess my redshirt freshman year. He was it was it kind of he had another year left, and um, he had decided that he wanted to come back for his last year. He didn't have a great tournament, but he said, I'm going to come back and I want to do this together one last year. We're gonna take these guys out, and it's just kind of a representative of our relationship. We've kind of been in some big moments a lot, and we've been on the short end of most of them. But just that mentality of, we have each other. We have each other. We can go for it. We can take these guys out. We got to get back to work, and being able to share those experiences is super. It's just super special for me, and I remember a lot of them.
Go Earn It podcast here with Trent Hidlay of NC State. You made the transition to college, and I'm looking at your stats. I mean, 24-2. I mean, you've had an amazing career. 5 years, you've lost 4 matches one time. Otherwise, I mean, it's 2 or 3 losses. That's it. So, I mean, a lot of times you see guys make these huge jumps, and I'm sure you have, but based on the records, it's like he's been really, really good from day one. What do you remember from that redshirt freshman, or your redshirt freshman season coming out of high school, that grind and making that transition, that jump to D1?
Yeah, when I think of my redshirt year, the only thing I can really picture is me getting beat up a lot. I came into the room, and I I knew I had to make some sacrifices that first year if I wanted to get to where I wanted to be. So it was a dark year, but I enjoyed it. I knew I was getting my ass beat a lot, but I was enjoying it because I knew it's what I needed. And you come to college as you weighing 185. It's not an easy place to be competing. You're wrestling against guys that are fully developed and grown men. And I was wrestling a lot of freestyle with the RTC in that redshirt year. And I don't know if I really was winning any matches ever. And I didn't realize how good I was getting until I started wrestling guys outside of the room. And that was the coaches that kind of told me, like, just be patient, trust in what's going on. You're making a lot of gains. I know it's hard to see now, but keep pushing yourself, keep doing what you're doing, and you're going to be really good. And we got to the end of my redshirt year, and I won the junior U.S. Open. I made the junior world team, and I got a bronze medal at the world championships. And I think it really, proved to myself that I was doing the right things. I had made a big jump, and I needed to carry that momentum into the college season. And I've been really consistent. It's my first year. I was a 5th seed at the national tournament. I had beaten Luan, who was the number 1 seed. I had beaten Dupre, who was ranked a little ahead of me, and I was right there with the top guys ever since I've got into the lineup. And I got second. I got 5th the one year and 4th, and haven't really been as healthy as wanted to be at the NCAA tournament. So that's the big priority for me this year, is being healthy and put my best wrestling at the end of the season. So yeah, I've been consistent. I made a huge jump coming from high school to college, and I think even in this past year, I've gotten a lot better as well. So I'm working for steady improvement, and you never know when that big jump's going to come.
You said something interesting, Trent. You were having a rough time you said it was a dark year, but you were enjoying it. Put that in a perspective if you can, because I mean, I've had this conversation with a lot of people, super successful. I mean, they're in tears, getting beat up so bad in that room, second guessing themselves, the self-doubt, wondering if they belong. It sounds like you were pretty confident and looked at that a little bit differently.
Well, I think what really helped me was seeing what Hayden had done. He went to NC State. I know he struggled his first year, and he came out. He made the national finals the next year. So in my mind, I was like, I was thinking of it in a long term mindset. Make the sacrifices now, deal with the pain now, and it'll set you up for where you want to be. So I think kind of having that blueprint, it was almost like a little bit of a cheat code for me. And I had him there as well to guide me along. So I bought into the philosophy of the coaches and the mentality of the program, and um, I had really big goals for myself, and I knew if I wanted to get to where I needed to be to achieve that, I had to first learn, and I had to get beat up. I had to mature. I had to get stronger. I had to get better at wrestling, and I knew the only way to do that was to just immerse myself in it. Um, so it was hard, and there was weeks where I'd go and I'd be like, man, this is just so hard. I'm not really feeling good. I'm not winning. I'm not scoring. When is this going to start to click? Uh, but mentally, I never gave up. I knew I was gonna be good enough to break through. I knew I was tough, and I think that's one of the most important things. It's hard when you can be really good at wrestling and not tough. That makes it hard to win matches. When you're tough, you can continue to work and get better at wrestling, and that's kind of what I did. I bought into it. I relied on what made me good in high school, and then I just try to keep expanding that, keep challenging myself as much as possible, even though it hurt. I knew it was worth it.
You talked about it before, that match with Aaron Brooks in 2021. That was in St. Louis. That was a great match. What do you remember from leaving the arena that night?
I remember just being so, you have the feeling of, man, I was so close. I was so close to achieving a lifelong goal, and you're out there on the stage, and it's what you dream about ever since you were a little kid, and to be so close and to come up empty handed, it stings, and it hurt, but um, I I knew I had to get better at wrestling. I knew I had to find ways to score, and if I wanted to achieve my goals, I knew I was going to have to find a way to beat him, and I went back to work. I knew there was some mistakes that I had made and some holes in my game I had to keep working on. My effort was great. Effort's never been a challenge for me. I always wrestle as hard as I can. But technically I knew I needed to make some jumps. So it was a huge motivation. You reach the national finals as a freshman. It's an extremely difficult thing to do and to replicate. But I think I learned a lot from that match, and just taking that is, in the grand scope, and my whole career at NC State, I was relatively young at that point. I've learned a lot since then. So just continuing to learn from the losses that I have. I think I learned the most there ever. You learn the most when you have a big failure like that, and you're gonna have to reevaluate things. But it's something that I don't have any regrets with how I've gone about things. I've been really close to achieving things, and I get another chance at it this year, which is huge. And I know I'm better at I'm better than I've ever been. I want to keep improving during this year, and try to make a run at it again.
Bumping up to 197. I know you said you were banged up, and I've heard you say that on a couple different interviews, and the weight cut was getting a little bit more difficult. So 197. What's that transition been like?
It's been really good. I can't lie. I feel better than I ever have since I've been to college. I'm older now, and I'm training a little bit smarter. Trying to take care of my body as much as I can. Mentally, I think it's allowed me to be fresh. I'm training. I'm enjoying practice. I know I can go into practice and not have to worry about losing a certain amount of weight. I can just focus on what I need to do to get better in some positions, and my gas tank has been better. I feel better. My body's adjusted to the weight really well, and yeah, it's super exciting. I feel like I kind of got a little bit of a restart with my wrestling, and it's made me hungry to keep getting better, and chase down the top guys in my weight class. So a lot of the guys I've never wrestled before, so that's another fun part of it. I spent 5 years wrestling the same guys over and over again, so it's a little bit of a different style of wrestling. I think the guys might be a little slower, but very strong. So there's some pluses and minuses to it, but overall, I've had a great start to the season. I feel really good mentally. I feel confident, and it's been a fun experience being able to to go up in weight class and see some new guys get opportunities in the on my team. We got a really strong team, so it's been very positive.
Brooks is up to 197. You're up to 197. You know, a couple of horses. It's Division I wrestling. I mean, you're going to have to beat a number of guys if you want to get to the top. As good as you've been, I mean, do you have self-doubt along the way? And if you do, how do you combat the self-doubt?
Yeah, I mean, I think anytime you're competing at this high level, there's always a little bit of self-doubt. I'd say in the past few months, I've made some great adjustments mentally to help me be a little more free and calm when I'm wrestling. This weekend at the Bill Farrell was the best I felt competing mentally in a long time. So I just need to be able to bring that over to folk style wrestling and just be super confident in the work that I put in. I think being at this weight, I feel better training, so I can be a little more confident in the fact that I'm doing it in a healthy way and I can compete really really hard for 7 minutes. Some technical areas that I've worked on, I think it's made me a little better wrestler. So I'm super excited. It's a great challenge. Like I said, Brooks has been the guy that's beaten me the past 3 years at the national tournament, and he's a guy I have to be able to beat to achieve my goals. But that's what I'm looking for. I want the best competition possible because it's gonna make me keep getting better. It forces me to reevaluate where I'm at and be honest with myself and look at areas I need to get better at. I have post collegiate goals as well on the senior level, and obviously Olympic champion is the ultimate goal. And if I want to be at that level, if I seriously want to win that, um, guys like Brooks and other guys at the senior level, I need to keep making jumps to be there and to be competitive and win those matches. So I think this past weekend was huge for me, wrestling some of the guys that I did and coming along with wins that it kind of proves to myself that I'm right there with some of the best guys. A few things here or there that can continue to be fixed, but my work ethic it's proving to be right for me, and I just got to be consistent.
When you talk about some of those little tweaks that you make in your mind, can you elaborate on anything specific, that you've done, between the ears, whether it's self-talk or, any other exercises that you do that to elevate? Because I'm just fascinated on the mind stuff. You guys are all good, super talented. You all work hard. I just think the mind is so powerful.
Absolutely. I think for young guys in college, the guys that mentally can put themselves in a position to be free when they walk out on the mat, it's night and day. As soon as you can kind of control your mind, it makes wrestling a whole lot easier. And there's always, you're always going to be a little anxious, a little nervous. That never goes away. But the more confident that I am in myself, and I look back at my training, and I know I've done everything right. And at that point, if I can say that through an honest lens, then there's no reason that I shouldn't be confident in my ability, regardless of how good the guy is. I know I've done everything I possibly can, and I gave it my best effort. So now I got to enjoy the opportunity. If I hold back, then that goes against what I was trying to do with my training. So as soon as that whistle blows, go after it, give yourself an opportunity to show how hard you train, how much you put into it. And I think it's a lot more easier to compete that way than it is to if you're worried about scoring a certain point or winning in a different way or what the guy's accolades are. It puts a lot of pressure on trying to do everything perfect. And if you can be comfortable with making a few mistakes and just getting after it, it's a lot more enjoyable sport to compete in. And I'm continuing to learn. It's never something you master, I think, completely. But I will say I feel like the older I've gotten, the better I've had a little better perspective on it, and being able to get my mind into a place where I can allow myself to just compete and enjoy it more.
I think about your career against Virginia Tech with McFadden and Bolin. I mean, some of those dog fights, obviously you mentioned you've been wrestling a bunch of these guys, really high level guys. What's the biggest dog fight you've had in college that stands out in your mind?
Oof. Yeah, I wrestled. I had a lot of really close matches with Hunter Bolin at Virginia Tech. I think we wrestled 6 times in college. He got the first, maybe 7. I don't know. All I know is he beat me 3 times in a row, and then I got the last ones. But I've had a lot of close matches. My freshman year wrestling Louis Dupre at Binghamton, I won in the ride out periods. The match just seemed it took like for 10 minutes, and he was super strong. I was able to get out on bottom and ride him. Last year, actually wrestling bowling at Virginia Tech, I gave up a takedown right at the end of the second period, and there was like 2 seconds on the clock, and the crowd went crazy. You know, Castle Coliseum there is crazy. There was a bunch of people. They don't like me a whole lot, so you knew they were gonna get fired up for that. And I was just thinking, just get set on bottom and just start the third period. I was like, just go. I was really tired, but I knew that I could get one, and I got an escape. I ended up getting a takedown to tie it late in the third, and then went to overtime and got another one. That was a pretty special win, and man, every time I wrestled him, nothing came easy. So that's probably what comes to my mind first.
When I think about Virginia Tech in North Carolina State, I can tell you one thing that people at Virginia Tech are not going to miss is seeing the name Hidlay on the scoreboard. They will not miss that. That is a great rivalry. If I could give you one do-over, you get one do-over in college, whatever it might be, maybe do a practice different, do something different. You get one do-over. What would it be?
Oh man, that's hard. I think I'm a product of, learning from the failures that I've had. So it's hard for me to go back and pick a match because I know that I got better from it. But I think the NCAA tournament my sophomore year when I got fifth. I was wrestling at the ACC tournament. I was wrestling the best I had all year. I felt phenomenal. I was super healthy. I felt great energy. My weight was great. And I don't know what happened after at NCAA's. I got sick on day one, and I had nothing. I had no pop. I didn't have any. I couldn't eat anything, and it was such a long and challenging weekend. Mentally, I was so exhausted by the end of it. Was able to still I was able to squeak out a few wins. I beat a Trey Munoz in the quarters and lost to Brooks in overtime in the semis. Dropped down that third day, lost to Keckeisen in overtime, and then beat Romero for fifth. But it was, man, every match seemed like it took a few years off my life with how much I had to put into it. And if I could redo that just so I didn't have to feel that pain, I would definitely go there.
What are you most proud of up to this point?
Man, what I'm most proud of, I think, is my resilience. And I don't know if this makes sense, but I'm proud of my ability to start being proud of myself. I look back at the past 5 years, and it's hard for me to see some of the things I've done as successful because I'm such a competitor and I want to win every time. And I think I've been so hard on myself that it's, whenever you come so close and you fall short, it's devastating. But I think my ability to give myself a little bit more grace and be proud of the effort that I put in and proud of the person that I'm becoming, I think is what I'm most proud of in the end. And I know that I still have a super exciting year ahead, and I just want to enjoy it. And at the end of the year, know that I put everything that I had into it, and I tried to get the most out of my teammates, and I gave as much as I possibly could to NC State and into my career. So that's definitely, I think, a big thing that I'm still working on, but it feels good to, take some time and appreciate yourself sometimes.
Trent, that was fantastic. I mean, that was such a great answer because it's so true. I mean, you look at your career. I mean, you have had an A+ career, A+. Your brother, A+ career. I mean, I didn't have dreams where I was half as good as you. I mean, it's just incredible what you've been able to do on a wrestling mat. That was I really appreciate the perspective out of you. And I think people that watch this, I think that's a real good thing. Give yourself some grace. It's okay. I mean, quite frankly, I mean, you give your best effort, you do everything right. It is what it is. I mean, sometimes, it's life. Sometimes it works out. Sometimes it doesn't. And you try to just, value that, appreciate it, and move on to the next step. Good
Absolutely.
stuff. What's it like wrestling for Pat Papalizzi? What's your favorite thing about wrestling for him?
I love that. I love how competitive he is. Man, ever since I've gotten there, he's always believed in me so much. I think he's always I think he saw a lot more in me than I did it myself sometimes. Ever since I got on the campus, he kept telling me, he's like, you're going to beat all these top guys. You're going to be one of the best guys in the country. And it's hard to see that, I think, when you're not beating guys. And then you start to turn your corner. It's like, yeah, man, I think he knew what he was talking about a little bit. And he, he holds I think the way that he runs the program is super special. He expects a ton out of us, but he's also there for us at the end of the day. And because we're expected so much from the coaches that we start to expect a lot out of ourselves. And he brings the most out of guys. He finds people that fits the culture really well, and he gets you motivated to want to win. He wants you to chase after really lofty goals. And I think the big thing with Pat is, he because he never kind of reached the goals he wanted athletically, he takes that into as a coach, and he wants us to get the most out of us while we can. So I think that's super special to have that perspective, and it's been cool having him as a mentor. I've learned a lot from him.
When you look at your career under Pat, is there a moment that stands out where it was like this was his best coaching for you? Like just one of those moments where it was like, man, he did this, and wow, was that big at the time?
I think one moment in particular that sticks out. Well, I guess two that really kind of stick out to me. My first year, that whole redshirt year, he kept telling me, you're going to be one of the best guys in the country right away. You're ready to compete against these guys. And I didn't have any ranked wins yet, I hadn't beaten any All-Americans. So it's, I knew I was good. I didn't know where I was at. And right off the bat, we had two duels in one day. We wrestled Cornell, and I had Darmstadt. I think he was number 3 in the country, returning All-American. And then later that day, we were driving to Binghamton to wrestle I was going to wrestle Louis Dupre, who was another top 5 guy in the country. So right off the bat, this is my first year in the lineup. I got 2 top 5 guys in a day, and I beat Darmstadt, and we drive to Binghamton, and I beat Dupre. And all of a sudden, I'm the number 2 or 3 ranked guy. I know the rankings don't mean a whole lot, but I was like, yeah, man, he told me this is what's going to happen. And after the duels, he's like, I told you, you're this good. You can beat these guys. And I think that went a long way for me and kind of trusting, like I said, the training I was doing. And I think another time I had lost to Bullen 3 straight times, and I was just so close each time. And he was kind of a stylistic nightmare for me. And I remember him saying, he's like, you're never going to lose to him again after last one. And I was like, it got me motivated, and I never did. Next time I wrestled him, it was a close match. I won in overtime at ACCs, and I never looked back from there. So he just always really believed in me a lot. And I think when those things come to fruition, you look at him, and it's special to have someone that believes in you that much.
Good stuff. Going to ask you a few more questions, just kind of loosen things up a little bit. What is on your on your screen on your phone?
I got my screensaver.
Yeah.
A picture of me and my girlfriend at a concert last year. So I don't know. I guess people wouldn't know this, but I've actually me and my girlfriend have been dating long distance for the past a little bit over 6 years. We
really?
started dating. We started dating in high school. We're from the same hometown, and I had a crush on her forever when I was a little kid, and we started dating senior year, and we've been dating ever since. She's awesome. So yeah, she's my screensaver.
Oh, that's awesome. What's her name?
Landry Burdick. She's actually she's getting her doctorate in physical therapy right now at Pittsburgh. So we're both almost finished up with school and almost through with the long distance stage. So I'm excited for that.
Oh, that's fantastic. What's been the most critical thing in this relationship being successful long distance? We go wrestling, we go relationships, we're solving all those problems. How would you answer that?
I think just truly loving each other and having a lot of trust and communication is huge. I never have to, I always feel loved. I always, I trust her a whole lot, and we just have such a deep connection that it's really special. And anytime that we have free time, we always make ways to see each other, whether it's driving or flying, or our families are really supportive. So you definitely learn a lot through it. It's not easy, it's pretty challenging, but just being able to communicate thoroughly and trusting each other, and just having a deep love is really important.
What's the most romantic thing you've done for her in the last year?
Um, and that's a good question. I might need to up my game a little bit. Man, I don't know. Usually, anytime that I can kind of squeeze some free time in, I try to make a visit to her. Whether it's buying a last second flight or getting in the car and driving a little bit. Yeah, anytime, especially after if it goes a month or two or so without seeing each other, it's pretty special when you do get time to connect. So probably like a nice dinner somewhere. I don't know. You're calling me out. I might need to go get some flowers on my way home.
If you could take a drive cross country, you and three people you've never met, who are the three people you've never met that you're going to take that car ride with?
Man, three people I've never met. Oh, geez. Man, it's hard. Probably some type of musician. I would say maybe Dave Matthews, because I like a lot of his song. He's
Okay.
pretty chill, dude. Um, maybe like a comedian, Kevin Hart, maybe keep things
Okay.
funny. And man, we need a navigator. Uh, can they be? Can they? Do they have to be living?
They don't. They don't.
I'll take either Lewis or Clark, the old
Okay.
navigator.
Sure. Sure.
Okay, so I don't know.
I
That's a
meant to
that's a
ask you before when you talked about the concert on your screensaver with your girlfriend. What concert was it?
it was a Dave Matthews Band
Oh, really?
concert. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I saw them about 20 years ago. They were
Oh,
good.
I try to go with my brothers and my friends each summer. They always come to Raleigh. This summer they didn't, and we went to Chicago to see him. It was awesome. I love Chicago. It was my first time there. I had a great time there. So I even got a White Sox hat. So
That was my next question. My next question was, I think that's a White Sox hat. Why the White Sox hat? So that answers
yeah.
that.
When we were in Chicago, we went to a White Sox game, and they were really bad, but it was I was like, I wouldn't be a Cub. If I was from Chicago, I wouldn't be a Cubs fan. I'd definitely be a White Sox fan. But I actually I like the Baltimore Orioles. I've liked them ever since I was a kid. So the White Sox are my second team now.
Who's your favorite football team?
Eagles, Philly Eagles.
Eagles.
Yep, big win
Big
last.
win over the Chiefs.
Yeah, my we so where I'm at in PA, we're right in the middle of Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, 3 hours each way. So a lot of people in my hometown are kind of more Pittsburgh fans, but my dad was always a Philly fan, so we like the Eagles.
Who's your favorite football player all time?
Um, Man, maybe LaShawn McCoy. I feel like when I really started watching a lot of football, he was running back for the Eagles, and man, he
Yep.
was such a beast. Some of the stuff he did, I liked him a lot.
What is something, Trent, that very few people know about you? Like, what is just something that most people don't know?
Um, I've been a little more, I guess, vocal about it this past year, but I love like hardcore music, like uh and punk as well. But I've been doing this thing recently, kind of my recovery effort. I call it hard yoga. So I go into a wrestling room and I put on some really hardcore melodic music or whatever, and I do like my stretching, and I get pretty calm, and it's good recovery for me. So I don't know if anybody else does that. Usually you're supposed to listen to peaceful music, but I love the hard stuff. I love metal, and that usually keeps me pretty calm.
Well, this has been great. Trent, really enjoyed this. I've always admired you from afar and just really appreciate your approach. You're a bad man. You're a bad man on the mat. Super cool to talk to you. And looking forward to watching the rest of the year. But thanks so much for joining us on the Go Hornet podcast. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on here.